Here is how you can learn Python in 7 days using ChatGPT. My name is Ondrej, and 18 months ago I knew nothing about Python. But with the help of ChatGPT, I was able to teach myself to a level where I could even build advanced AI agents in Python. So let's get started. I've built this free custom GPT, which will be linked below, and it might just be the fastest way to learn Python. First off, you have to select your expertise level. Whether you've never coded before, minimal coding experience, you know some Python, or you're comfortable with it. By the way, later in the video, I'll show you the inner workings of the GPT, even revealing the system prompt. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so let's go up. So I said, I've never coded before. Great, let's start with the basics. I structured this into 7 days, learn Python in 7 days. And each day gets a little bit harder, building on top of the previous days. Even if you know nothing about programming, you will be able to understand this. So let's see. A variable is like a box that can hold a value. You can change the value in the box anytime. Here are some basic data types. Integer, whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, float, decimal numbers, and string. And here is how it looks in Python. So integer, float, and string. But the best part about this GPT is action step. It doesn't let you just, learn. It forces you to do stuff, which is, the real way to learn. So let's see the action step it gave us. Try to create 3 variables. An integer representing the number of pets you have. Okay, so let's do that. By the way, if you're watching this, please subscribe. So let's create an integer named number of pets and give it the number of pets I have, which, if you know me, I have 3 cats. So, okay, we store a 3. So the good thing about Python is that you don't have to explain what type of a variable it is. You don't have to explain that it's an integer, right? In other programming languages, you would have to do like int and then the name. Python already understands. So it will know that if you do this, it's an integer. If you do this, it's a float. If you said hello, it's a string. But since number of pets is an integer, let's just give it 3. Okay, let's see what Python teacher told us to do next. A float representing the height of your favorite tree. That's kind of a crazy prompt, but okay. Tree height equals, and let's just assume it's like 12.5 meters tall. I don't know what kind of an example that is. ChatGPT cooking. Okay, a string with the name of your favorite book. Okay, favorite book equals, and let's do the singularity is nearer. It's not my favorite book because I haven't read it, but I ordered it literally today, so I can't wait to read it. Anyways, I'm gonna give it the code. And the GPT, the cool thing about GPT, it will not let you progress unless you actually understand it. So a lot of people struggle with what do I learn? This GPT answers that. But also a lot of people struggle with skipping over the fundamentals. And if you listen to Naval Ravikant, he always preaches, learn the fundamentals deeply. So this GPT will hold you accountable. So if you, say go to the next thing, it's are you sure you understand the previous lesson? So what I need to do is I need to copy my code, copy these 3 lines of code, and just give it, and so here is my code, and just paste it inside. You can also take a screenshot and do that, that's also fast, especially when you have more lines of code. So let's see, great job, you've successfully created variables with different data types. Seems like we passed the first lesson. Now before we go to the next Python lesson, I just want to say, I've built many GPTs like this, and all of them are accessible inside of my community. So when you click on the classroom and go to David's prompts and code, you can get all of my code from all the other videos, but as well as all the GPTs I've built, right? So like a GPT architect, which makes building your own GPTs super easy, or image prompter, which saves you so much time in Midjourney. So if you want access to all of my GPTs, as well as all the other trainings we have, as well as a direct access to me in the form of weekly calls, then make sure to join. It's the first link in the description. Now let's get back to Python. So the next lesson, as you can see, is basic operators. So when you pass the first lesson, only then it teaches you the next concept. And each day tries to teach you 3 different things. So it's not like you have to learn for 8 hours straight. No, you can easily do it in 30 minutes. Maybe if you're slow, an hour. But each day only teaches you 3 fundamental concepts. So in total, it's 21 fundamental Python concepts. And the goal is to actually understand them deeply. So let's see. We've learned the data types. Now let's do basic operators. Operators allow you to perform operations on variables, such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, or exponentiation. Here is how to use them. And, it explains the lessons, shows you the syntax, because you might know some other programming language if you clicked on this video, or you might not know nothing, right? So either way, you need to learn the syntax of Python. And here it shows you beautifully how it is, but it never tells you the complete solution. And this is something I've built into the system prompt. It only gives you hints and only teaches you the syntax, but it lets you figure out the action step on your own. So as you can see, we do addition by adding a plus, minus, these are pretty self-explanatory. Maybe the exponentiation wouldn't be that obvious, you know, double exclamation point, I don't know. But either way, here's the action step, right? So basic operators, once you read this and once you understand it, you really understand it when you can actually code it. So, by the way, quick thing I want to mention, if you don't have VS Code installed, or if you've never worked with Python, don't use that as an excuse. That's a loser thing to do. What you can say is like, by the way, I don't have VS Code installed. Can you help me do this? I don't know how. I've never done it. Use the AI. This is one of the biggest beginner mistakes. Not using ChatGPT enough, believe it or not. Even people that are like, oh yeah, I know about ChatGPT. They still don't use it enough. Like when they allow themselves to get stuck at a problem instead of getting the AI to help them unstuck. So here, you know, no problem. Here's a quick guide. Install VS Code. Gives me the link. Then tell me how to install it. Then how to install Python. Like, don't let the fact that you don't have these programs installed stop you. Like, if you've ever installed a video game, you can install VS Code. So don't let that be your excuse. Anyways, let's continue. So, back to our operations. So try using each of these operators with your number of pets and tree height. For example, add number of pets to tree height, multiply them, and so on. Okay, so now we have to use each of the operators, each of these 4 ones, on our 2 numbers, right? So let's do that, right? Let's do number 1 equals, and then do number of pets plus tree height, okay? Then number 2, we're declaring a new variable and then assigning the result of this operation to it. Now let's do tree height minus number of pets, okay? Number 3 is gonna be multiplication. So we just, you know, do number of pets times tree height. And then number 4 is gonna be division. And in division, it takes it into float. It turns it into a float. So we do tree height divided by number of pets. And then we can do the exponentiation as well. Why not? Number 5 equals number of pets to the power of tree height, which will be a pretty high number actually. 3 to the power of 12 and a half. Okay, so give it a try, let me know how it goes. All right, so now we again check the code. So I'm just going to Control A, Control C, and give it a code. Here is my code for the previous exercise. Boom. You know, specify that it's for the previous one because we did the VS Code question in the meantime. Now, okay, another beginner mistake is not doing action steps. Like the amount of time I see people watching, and to be honest, most of you watching this will just watch this. Like the real benefit is writing the code yourself. That's how you will learn anything. You cannot learn to play the piano by watching YouTube videos about playing the piano. Now, sure, you might know more than if you didn't watch those videos. I'll give you that. But you will never learn how to do it. You will never become a programmer. You will never learn Python if you don't write any lines of Python. So don't just watch this and actually do the action steps. That's why I've built it into the GPT, so it doesn't let you just, you know, ask questions. Okay, nice work. You've used basic operators. Okay, input, output operations. In Python, you can get input from the user and display the output using print. I mean, everybody knows print, but most beginners are struggling with input. Use input to get the user input. Pretty self-explanatory. Input always is a string, so you may need to convert it to the appropriate type. Ooh, this is getting a little bit interesting. Output, use print to display output. Okay, here's an example. So input, username equals input, enter your name, and then output. So as you can see, it works exactly the same as print, but it just stores it, right? It just needs the user to write something, while print is just outputs it. It doesn't need to do anything. Oh, and as you can see now, this is interesting. It didn't just print out, you know, hello world or something. It actually included the variable we've declared here. We've declared it and stored the user input into this variable, and then we're using that variable in the print. So we're getting a bit more to the next level. Obviously still super simple, but if you've never programmed, might be new to you. Okay, if you want to work with numbers, you need to convert the input. So you would do this, you would do integer before it, and wrap this in int. That way it's stored as a number. But obviously then, if somebody enters a string, you would get an error. But you don't have to worry about that now. Okay, let's look at the action step. Write a small program that asks the user for their favorite color, asks the user for a number, prints a message that includes the favorite color and the number. Okay, so I don't think we even need to do this part, but why not? Let's just do it. So first off, we need to do ask the user for a favorite color, okay? So you can do a comment like this. By the way, in Python, you do comments by single line comments by doing the hashtag, and then you can type anything. And this obviously does not affect the code in any way. Okay, ask the user for their favorite color. So we're gonna do favorite color equals, and then obviously we need to do input. And now we can put the prompt to the user. So this could be anything. You could even leave this empty, but that's bad practice. So I'm just gonna do enter your favorite color, colon, and then spacebar, so it's a bit formatted. Okay, and now when we run the code, we can actually test out if it works. I'm gonna run it. Ooh, enter your favorite color. So let's do red, enter, and program ends, because we're not doing anything with that variable just yet. Now we need to ask the user for a number, okay? So let's do that. Ask the user for a number. So user number. Okay, let's change this name of the variable so it's the same. I'm gonna do user color and then user number equals, and then we're gonna do the tip we just learned. We're just gonna wrap it in the int formatting. I don't know, what's the method or whatever, which tells Python that this should be an integer. Says like expect an integer, turn this input and save it as a number, whole number. Okay, so let's do int, and then inside of it we have to do the input. So exactly as we've done, but we just wrap it in the int operator. Okay, and let's do enter a random number. All right, and now we print a message that include both, right? So okay, so we, instead of doing input now, we use the print statement, and then we do here's what you told me, boom. Actually, we don't need to do a space here, because when you do plus, it automatically adds a space. But that's almost a detail. So let's do user color plus user number. And actually, I probably need to do a comma here. Okay, save and run. Enter a favorite color. Let's do blue this time. Enter number 42. Here's what you told me, blue 42. Okay, so I was wrong actually. I was wrong. See, you have to put a space bar here. Only with the comma it adds a space. So let's test it again. Let's do green and 7. Yeah, exactly. So comma automatically inserts a space into the string, but plus it does not. Good to know, good to know. Some Python syntax reminders. Okay, so I'm gonna put the code. Here is the code. Is it correct? I'm gonna assume like I don't know. And that's the good thing. Even if you don't run it, you can just ask ChatGPT if it works. And for all the basic lessons, I mean, everything in these 7 days, it will tell you the right answer. I mean, if you were to do some advanced, programs, then yeah, you want to run it yourself, because ChatGPT might make mistakes and might say, like, this code looks fine, but, it has like 4 errors. Happens a lot once you get like over 100 lines. Anyways, now you're like at these levels, you can chill out and can trust ChatGPT. Your code is almost perfect. There's a small tweak needed in the print statement. Ooh, interesting. I mean, it doesn't really... Seems like it's not necessary, Seems like ChatGPT is suggesting us to change the print statement, but we ran the test and it works. So it wants us to do user color and then insert one more string, manually. We do and then we take this into a string. But it still works. I mean, anyways, let's continue to the next step. Modify your program to also ask the user favorite food and then print a message that includes your favorite food color. Okay, so all right. we're gonna do that, but then I'm gonna ask it to progress to the next day, right? So, okay, let's insert it in between here. Let's do user food, and then let's do input, enter your favorite food. And then here, we're just gonna add it. We're gonna do it the way ChatGPT wants, right? So we're gonna do plus, and then and with spaces, otherwise there won't be any. And then user, okay, it wanted to do string, user number. Obviously this is not needed because it works without it, but let's just do it if ChatGPT wants it. And then one more and, I'm gonna scroll up so you can see it. User food, beautiful. So now let's run it. Just do yellow for favorite food. I'm gonna do salad, whatever. Here's what you told me, yellow and for and salad, beautiful, works. So I'm gonna give the code and I'm gonna say, I think I'm ready for the next day. Boom. I think I'm ready for the next day. So as you noticed, 3 fundamental concepts in this day, right? We've got the variables, we've got the operators, and then input output. So now, day 2. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna separate it into a new Python file, which is super simple. Just right click, new file, day2.py, which stands for Python. Day 2. Okay, boom, we're progressing. So now, control flow. Conditional statements, if else. This is interesting. If else statements are like the bread and butter of programming. Conditional statements allow your program to make decisions based on certain conditions. The most basic ones are if, elif, which is else if, and else. Here is a simple example. Age 20. If the age is less than 18, print you are a minor. Shout out Drake. Else if age higher or equals to 18 and at the same time age is less than 65, you are an adult. Else you are a senior. So action step. Write a program that, number 1, asks the user for their age. So I'm gonna copy this and do this as comments. And then we're just gonna do it. Boom. Prints a message saying whether they're minor. Okay, so actually this is a mistake that the GPT should not do. So I'm gonna point it out. The action steps should always be different from the examples you used to teach the concept. Give me a new action step. I mean, you know, because right now I can just replicate what's here. And a lot of the, I mean, we say like 95% of the time it follows this instruction, but sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, like when you have, you know, actually, why not just show you? I'm gonna show you the inside of this GPT. So what I'm gonna do is edit GPT. And let's look at the system prompt I've made. So here you can see the name is Python teacher. The easiest way to learn Python is the description. So by the way, when you're creating GPTs in ChatGPT, always use the configure tab, always, because the create tab, you will not create a good GPT with the create tab. Anyways, let me zoom out a bit. So here is the main part is obviously the custom instructions, also known as the system prompt. If you're new to AI, custom instructions and system prompt, basically the same thing, just a different name for the same thing. So here, first I'm gonna look at the overall structure of it before diving into the system prompt. Okay, as you can see, knowledge, we don't need any external knowledge. I could give it some, PDFs about Python or ebooks, but there's so much training data about Python already included in the model. There's just no point here. Capabilities, web browsing, we don't need. It would just, be extra stuff that might cause it to do stuff we don't want. So I turned it off. DALL-E image generation, also this is not GPT to create images. I mean, there's plenty of other GPTs that do that, so I turned it off. But code interpreter, I turned it on, which lets it test the code you give it. So actions, we don't need any of that. Conversation starters, just lets you select the level of Python you have. Now here is the main part. This is the really where the value is created. The system prompt. And this one is, I would say this one is like, it's long, but not super long. I mean, The top GPTs definitely have longer ones, but if you've never created GPT, you might be like, oh my god, David, this is a long system prompt. So let me just quickly go through it, right? Here I give it a personality and describe the key things. Then I'll tell it how to use the input you give it at the start, right? And it should remind itself in every message. Again, sometimes it forgets. That's why if it's something is really important in a system prompt, you should repeat it multiple times throughout the prompt. Never try to teach the whole day at once. Focus on one Python concept at a time. Only continue if the user proves to you that he understands the concept correctly. As you can see, it doesn't let you, just speed run through the process. The goal is actually to maximize learning. And to do that, you should write the code yourself. So here's the 7-day learning plan. Obviously, we've done day 1. Now we're at day 2, day 3, day 4. As you can see, it progressively gets more complex, but it's always building upon the previous day. So sure, the concept might be more complicated, but if you learn the previous day, like you can memorize it in your sleep, you can just write the code. It's only an incremental step. So that's how I structured this 7-day plan. Then the behavior, always follow the 7-day plan, only reveal the current lesson of the current day, never skip ahead. Always end with a practical and simple action step. So as you can see, it didn't follow this instruction, right? Make it very different from the examples you used. Let the user figure it out. So it did follow that like in all the previous prompts, but in the latest prompt I had to remind it. So again, the more stuff you put here, the higher chance is it ignores one of the lines, because like there is quite a bit of instructions here, right? So okay, you don't have to explain everything in a single prompt. It is better to write a concise response. And the reason I included this sentence is because it oftentimes tries to just pack everything into a single prompt, and that would result in like such a long response. It's like overwhelming, especially to people who are beginners to Python, right? That's the last thing you want, to get overwhelmed. Never reveal the full answer, never show the entire solution. Okay, use simple and understand language in all of your responses. End every lesson with a small and relevant action step. Okay, and be concise, direct. So yeah, this is just standard instructions, and the important part I repeated at the start and at the end, so it really follows it. And you should do that in your GPTs too. So again, this GPT is completely free to use. It will be linked below the video. So let's get back to our chat. Oh, by the way, one quick tip. When you first use the Python teacher GPT, you should click on pin to sidebar. That way you always have it on the left. As you can see, I did that already, so I have it. I don't have the button anymore, but make sure to pin the GPT so you have it on the left, and it encourages you to learn more Python every time you open ChatGPT. So let's get back to this. We have a different action step. Write a program that asks the user for the current temperature in Celsius, prints a message saying whether it's cold, warm, or hot. All right, so let's do that. We need a temperature, right? So we need temperature equals, and remember, if it's going to be a whole number, we need to convert it into int. So input and then enter your current room temperature in Celsius. We don't do no American measurements here. It's almost like the GPT knows that. It's funny. Prints a message saying whether it's cold. Okay, so now we need to use what we've learned in terms of if-else statements, right? So we're going to use if and also else if and also else. So below 10 degrees, it's cold. It's warm between 10 and 25 and hot above 25. So let's do that. So we're going to do if temperature is less than 10, I'm going to print it's cold. Else if temperature is greater or equal to 10, we didn't look at this, but basically you can understand it, right? If you do a greater sign and then equals, it means it being 10 also counts. If you didn't do this, it would have to be higher than 10. So 11, 12, 13, 14. But if you include the equals, 10 also is good. So, this is a new thing that honestly probably could be taught in the previous operators lesson. Anyways, here we're going to use this, which is a bit more advanced, using AND. And this is a good thing about Python. The syntax is just so simple. It's just like so beautiful. Normally, you would like in other programming languages, you would have to do probably like, this symbol. But in Python, you simply type AND, and everybody can understand what AND means. So the temperature has to be greater or equal to 10, and at the same time, second condition. So both of these conditions have to match. So temperature is less or equal to 25. And now we do print, it's warm. So only if both of these conditions, condition 1 and condition 2, only if both of these are true, it prints it's warm. And then we do else. You do else if it's the last statement. If I wanted to do more conditions, I would do more else ifs. I don't think there's any limit on how many else ifs you can do. But if it's the final one, you just type in else. And honestly, here I could probably just do else and print, it's hot, because it automatically assumes, right? Because if these two conditions are not true, it has to be hot, because if it's lower than 10, even if it's negative, it's cold. If it's in this range, it's warm. But here we don't even have to specify it. See, ChatGPT also didn't do that in the example. You don't have to do if, else, you don't have to do else if temperature being greater than 25. Just type in else. It's automatically logically guaranteed. So anyways, now we have to print, we don't have to print anything. We have the print statements here. What am I saying? So now we have to run the code, right? So let's run the Python file. Enter your current room temperature in Celsius. I mean, it's probably 24 here. It's warm. It is warm. So let's test it again. Let's test out a different number. I'm gonna do 8. It's cold. That would be a pretty cool room, yeah. And let's do some Dubai temperatures, 45. It's hot. Yep. So our code works. Let's copy it and give it to ChatGPT and see what it thinks. Excellent work. Your program correctly uses conditional statements to evaluate the temperature. Next concept, loops. For loop. A for loop is used to iterate over a sequence, like a list, tuple, or string. If you don't know what these are, don't worry. They're actually in the next few days, like lists, tuples, dictionaries. You will learn them if you get to day 3 or 4. Okay, so now we create a list. Ooh, okay, never mind, dude. You'll just learn it now. You'll learn it now. Why not? So this is how you do a list of 3 different strings. So again, it might be intimidating if you don't know Python syntax, but a list is basically a list of names, numbers, anything. So here we have fruits, obviously, and the name of the list is fruits. And then we do a for loop, fruit, and this is just an arbitrary name. This could be X, Y, Z, but it's good practice to name it. If you have a list of something like numbers, you can do for number. That way it's easy to read the code. But honestly, this doesn't have to be named fruit. And then you do in, again, beauty of Python, super understandable. And you just put in what you want to iterate through. In this case, we want to iterate through the fruits list. And then you just print out the fruit for every single fruit in this list. Beautiful. So then it teaches us while loop. A while loop keeps executing as long as a condition is true. Example, count equals 0, while count is less than 5. This block of code keeps executing. Now, if you have a bit of creativity, you can see okay, what if you put while, 1 is smaller than 0? Then that would never run. 1 is bigger than 0. What if you put something that's always true, basically, right? Well, you would create an endless loop. You can also put in just a while true, and that loop would never run. You can obviously that's a bad practice, because you'll have to keep your PC running forever or crash the program. But usually if somebody does while true, then there's something in the code that will break the loop. Anyways, let's do the action step, right? Okay, let me hit enter, separate it a bit. So what is the action step? Write a program that uses a for loop to print each letter over a favorite word on a new line. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do that first. So we need a for loop and we need your favorite word. So we first need to get the favorite word, right? So let's do favorite word equals, and then ask the user with the input. We already know this. Enter your favorite word. And now we need to iterate through it. So let's do for, and then what is the element, right, in a word? Obviously it's a letter. So for letter in word, and again, this could be named complete nonsense. It could be named this, and it will still work. But we just do it for good code readability. For letter in favorite word, this is the string, and then you just do print letter. As simple as that. So let's test it out if it works. Actually, we can comment this code out so it doesn't interfere. Let's run it. Enter your favorite word. Let's do Python. Very meta. Boom. And it works. Python. Printed out every single letter on a separate line. Okay, so now let's do the while loop. Uses a while loop to count down from 5 to 0, printing each number. Okay, so let's declare a number. Let's do num equals 5, and then we declare a while loop. While number is higher than 0, less than higher or equal to 0, print n, but we have to also change n. So n minus equals 1. Actually, what am I doing? N. It's not n, it's number. Anyways, forget me. It's quite late already. Let's run it. Enter your favorite word. Let's do ChatGPT. Boom. And we got an error. Print n. Did I change it? Oh, I didn't change it. Oh my god. Okay. Excuse me again. let's do ChatGPT again. Boom. And then it works. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. From 5 to 0. Okay. Yeah. Beautiful. So let's see if ChatGPT approves of this code. Boom. Does it approve or not? Great job. Your code correctly uses both for and while loops. Now, just a quick tip. I'm going to do this back just so I demonstrate something, right? I'm going to do this incorrectly. So now I run it and I get an error. Let's do whatever, 3, doesn't matter. And then I get this error and you might be like, oh my god. If you get your first error, you'll probably be intimidated. You don't know what to do. Here is what you should do to not get stuck. Obviously, you should read it. But if you're a beginner and you're like, oh my god, I'm getting stuck, I'm getting overwhelmed. Simplest thing you can do, just take a screenshot. So I'm going to do this. Take a screenshot of this code. And I'm going to say, I'm getting this error. And whatever, just that. That's the entire prompt. I'm getting this error. Enter. Use ChatGPT to debug your code. The better you get and the more lines of code you write, the more errors you will encounter. Especially if you don't know the syntax or if you're sloppy like me, and accidentally put n instead of num. Just ask ChatGPT to help you debug it. I mean, in this case, I was able to figure it out on my own, but if it was something more advanced, take a screenshot of it and put it into ChatGPT. It's like the best and easiest way to debug. Obviously, you can, over time add coding assistance and stuff like that, but the simplest way, if you're just using ChatGPT, just paste in the screenshot and say like, I'm getting this error, and it will tell you what's happening, right? Because this, like seeing in the terminal, might be a bit intimidating, but it will explain it in simple language. So let's say, explain it even more simply what happened. Say I don't even understand what this is. I just need it explained simply, right? Sure, let's break it down. What happened? Error. Name error. Name n is not defined. Super simple explanation. Could not be simpler, to be honest. This means that your code tried to use a variable n, but n was never created or given a value. How to fix it? Check for typos. Make sure all variables you use are spelled correctly and defined before you use them. Oh, who knows? We don't have that. So now we check and we see it's correctly defined and error fixed. But you get the point. And now we're obviously only at day 2. And if I were to continue, this would be like a 5-hour video, right? So continue on your own. This is my goal. You can start with me and do the first 2 days with me, but use the GPT. Again, it's linked in the description. Use it to actually learn how to use Python. Because if you do this, I guarantee you, spend 30 minutes a day with this GPT. In 7 days, you will understand the basics of Python. Even if you don't have any programming background. I've built this GPT just for this, and I've made this video to hopefully convince more people to learn Python and that it's not that intimidating. Programming sounds intimidating, it sounds complicated, but once you get into it, you'll find the beauty of logic and having the computer do exactly what you told it to do. And every time you write a successful program, even if it's something simple like this, you will get that dopamine rush of like, wow, I've built this and it works. Even like printing out every letter in a word. This alone is just like so fascinating if you've never programmed anything. So I encourage you, take 30 minutes, time block 30 minutes a day for the next 7 days in your calendar and learn Python with the GPT. Now, if you want to get more out of ChatGPT we have exclusive workshop on this called Advanced ChatGPT course, which will teach you exactly how to use ChatGPT like a pro from beginning to the end. So this is just one thing. GPTs is only one module in this training. There are 6 other modules, as well as a bonus one for the API, that will teach you how to use ChatGPT like a pro, how to save time with ChatGPT, how to write great prompts and everything else. And again, this is just one of many trainings we have inside of the community. So if you think that's valuable, then make sure to join. It's the first link in the description. Thank you for watching.